were the motives for exploration? You may have learned of the three G's, God, gold, and glory, as the typical summed up reasons for exploration. Well, a very complex series of motives pushed the Europeans to explore, in spite of the fact that doing so could be enormously expensive. One primary motivation for exploration was the need for Europeans to find land on which they could grow crops. In the earliest stages of exploration, Portuguese explorers sought to expand their own domestic resources by increasing their exploitation of oceanic resources, such as fishing and whaling. There was also a desire to acquire land that could directly improve their economic situation. This might include finding resources to use back in Portugal, like timber, but it was also focused on bringing cultivatable land under their control. They need farming land. In particular, the Portuguese sought land on which to grow foodstuffs like wheat. A second agricultural motivation for the Portuguese, who were the first explorers, was to find a place to grow sugar. The demand for sugar had been increasing in Europe, and although the Italians had been establishing sugar plantations for decades, others wanted to find lands, hopefully in the Pacific, that could be used for sugar cultivation. In addition to seeking land for resources and cultivation, Europeans also focused on establishing viable trade routes that gave them more direct access to trade. While there were many areas in which they were interested, the primary objective was to establish a trade route to Asia that they could control. The Europeans had experienced trade and contact with the Far East in a variety of ways. They had participated in some European trade routes that had contact with Asian trade routes through the Mediterranean trade with the Silk Road, for example. In addition, contact had increased for several reasons, including the Crusades and the Italian dominance of the Mediterranean, and their contacts with the Asian trading routes. However, Europeans grew to desire a stronger direct role in trade with Asia. Instead of relying on intermediaries, Europeans wanted to be more actively and directly involved with trade in the hope of increasing their own economic position and their access to goods like silk, spices, and porcelain. Silk and porcelain were luxury goods that the Europeans craved, but spices were of particular importance to the Europeans. They could be used to flavor food, but they were also used to preserve food for medicinal purposes, to make more palatable food, make it taste better, and to cover up offensive odors, make it perfume. The Europeans had established trade contacts with Africa through Muslim merchants, but they wanted to create their own direct contacts for goods such as gold, ivory, and slaves. Although the Europeans had no idea that there was land in the West, the discovery of the Americas created an additional trade route that the Europeans desired to control. An additional motivation for the explorers was the idea of spreading Christianity. Initially, Roman Catholic missionaries accompanied explorers to help bring Christianity to the lands they were encountering. In later stages, particularly in the British colonies in North America, Protestantism came to play a role in the establishment of religious ideas. So I think we have our three G's. This is the God motivation, the trade routes for the gold motivation, and glory to be the first to find something to be popular. Let's talk more about that one. Glory. One final motivation for exploration was the acquisition of glory, either for national prestige or for personal fame and power. Leaders of European countries saw exploration as an opportunity to build their own empires and increase national glory. Countries such as Spain, Portugal, England, France, and the Netherlands all sought control trade routes and land that would make them more powerful. In addition, individuals saw exploration as an opportunity to gain public fame for themselves and to potentially become rich. And those are the motivations for exploration: God, gold, and glory. Here are some discussion questions for today's quick lecture.